There's a silent problem happening right now inside the bodies of millions of men over the age of 60. A problem that doesn't hurt, doesn't show up on standard blood tests, and has no obvious symptoms at first. But by the time it finally appears, by the time it becomes impossible to ignore, it has already caused damage that took years to develop. And this problem has a name: clogging of the veins in the penis. It's not weakness, it's not psychological, it's not being soft. It's a physical, progressive, and silent process that begins long before you notice any problems in bed. And the scariest part isn't the clogging itself, it's that your body warns you. It sends clear, repeated, insistent signals. But most men don't know how to recognize them. They ignore them, normalize them, blame it on age, and by the time they finally understand what was happening, the blockage has already gone too far. Today, I'm going to show you 5 of these signals, signs your body may be sending you right now. Signs that the veins responsible for carrying blood to the penis are blocked, hardened, and compromised. And the third sign on this list is the most important one, because almost no man recognizes it and almost no doctor connects it to the real circulatory problem that's causing it. Once you understand what it is, you'll start looking at your body in a completely different way. I'm Dr. Natália Castro. If you want to keep receiving important health content for people over 60, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Now, before we get to the 5 signs, I need you to understand one fundamental thing. The veins in the penis are the smallest veins in the human body. Some are less than 2 millimeters in diameter, and that has enormous consequences. When blood starts circulating poorly, when fat begins to build up on the vessel walls, when chronic inflammation starts hardening the arteries, these microscopic veins are the first to be affected, long before the heart, long before the brain, and long before any serious symptoms appear. That means erection problems are not the end of the story. They are the beginning of an alert. And those who learn to read this alert early still have time to reverse everything. Those who ignore it will discover the warning in the worst possible way. So let's start with the first sign. One that many men already know, but don't interpret correctly. The first sign is the loss of morning erections. You've probably heard about this. Healthy men, especially under 50, wake up with an erection almost every morning. It's an automatic process, a self-regulation mechanism. While you sleep, your body uses that time to oxygenate the tissues of the penis, exercise the vessel muscles, and maintain vascular health in the area. It's like the body performing overnight maintenance. When that maintenance works properly and blood circulates strongly during the night, you wake up with an erection. So tell me, when was the last time you woke up like that? If you're having morning erections less often than before, if they're weaker, shorter, less firm, or simply disappearing, this is not just normal aging. It's a sign that nighttime circulation is compromised, that the veins in the penis aren't receiving enough flow, and that the oxygenation of the tissues is failing. And when this process fails night after night, week after week, the damage starts to accumulate. I once saw a patient, I'll call him Luis, 63 years old, married for 35 years. He came into the office saying his erections had become weaker during intimacy. But when I asked about morning erections, he went silent. Then he said, "Doctor, I haven't woken up like that in over 2 years. I thought it was normal." It wasn't normal. His body had been warning him for 2 years that something was wrong with his circulation, and he didn't know how to read the signal. But that's only the first one. Soon I'll show you a much more subtle, much more treacherous sign that most men don't even imagine is related to the veins in the penis. First, though, I need you to understand the second sign, because it completes the picture. The second sign is taking longer to achieve a full erection. Think about it. When you were younger, the response was almost instant. Stimulation arrived and your body responded quickly, almost automatically. That happens because with healthy circulation, the vessels in the penis expand rapidly. Blood flows with pressure, the tissues fill up, and the erection forms in seconds. But when the veins are partially blocked, when the vessel walls are stiff, when nitric oxide, the chemical signal that relaxes the vessels, is in short supply, the whole process slows down. You feel the stimulation, you want the erection, but your body takes longer to respond. And that delay is not psychological, it's vascular. Many men get frustrated and start thinking it's nerves, anxiety, or stress. Yes, those factors can contribute, but in most cases, I see the root cause is circulatory. The vessels simply can't fill with blood as quickly as before because they're partially obstructed. And here's something most men don't know. When you need more time to achieve a full erection, when the process is slower, it's not just an inconvenience, it's your body telling you the flow is compromised. And if the flow is compromised there, it may be compromised in other, more dangerous places too. But wait, because the third sign is where most men get it completely wrong. It's where the most important warning becomes completely invisible. And it's what I want you to pay close attention to right now. The third sign, which almost no one notices, is frequently cold feet and hands. It sounds simple, almost trivial, and it seems to have nothing to do with erections, but it has everything to do with them. Once you understand why, it will be one of those moments when a piece of information completely changes how you see your own body. Remember when I said the veins in the penis are the smallest in the body? Well, the veins in the feet and hands are also very small. And when the circulatory system starts having problems, when atherosclerosis, the buildup of plaque in the arteries, begins to set in, when inflammation starts compromising vessel flexibility, the extremities are the first to feel it. The hands, the feet, and the penis. So when you notice your feet are frequently cold, even on mild days when your hands get cold more easily than before, when you realize the feeling of chill in your extremities has increased over the years, that is not an isolated problem. It's the exact same process that is compromising circulation in the veins of the penis. It's the same cause, the same blockage showing up in different places. Leave a comment below. Have you noticed your feet getting cold more often than before? Tell me, because I receive messages from men all over Brazil talking about this, and the vast majority never connected that detail to the bigger circulatory problem. One of my patients, a 68-year-old retired engineer from Minas Gerais, came in complaining of progressive erectile dysfunction. When I asked about other symptoms, he mentioned almost in passing, "Oh, and my feet are always cold. I wear socks even in the summer." That single detail told me far more than any isolated exam because it was a clear sign of peripheral circulatory compromise. The peripheral arteries and the arteries of the penis belong to the same system. When one suffers, the others suffer too. But this third sign doesn't appear alone. It almost always comes with the fourth. The fourth sign is fatigue that is disproportionate to the effort. You climb a flight of stairs and get out of breath in a way that didn't happen a few years ago. You take a short walk and your legs feel heavy. You stand up quickly from a chair and feel a brief dizziness. You carry a bag of groceries and your arm tires faster than it should. This excessive, disproportionate fatigue is yet another sign that the circulatory system is struggling. When blood doesn't circulate well, muscles and organs don't receive enough oxygen. The heart has to work harder to compensate. The whole body stays in a constant state of effort, even at rest. So when you do any physical activity, even a light one, the system is already at its limit. Fatigue hits fast and takes longer to pass. Now think about what this means for an erection. If your body is already having trouble delivering oxygen and blood to the muscles during light effort, imagine what happens when it needs to fill the vessels of the penis with enough pressure for a firm erection. The blood simply doesn't have the strength to get there. Not because you're weak, not because you're old, but because the system is compromised. And that compromise is showing up in multiple ways at once. And that brings me to the fifth sign, the one that completes the picture and reveals the true scale of the problem. But before I get there, I need to tell you something important. The medical guide to avoiding the mistakes that damage the prostate after 60 is available in the pinned comment below the video. You need to see it because the mistakes that harm the prostate and the mistakes that harm circulation in the penile veins have a lot in common. The guide explains everything clearly and practically so you can start acting today. It's in the first pinned comment. Don't miss it. Now, the fifth sign, and this is the most distressing one for the men who experience it. The fifth sign is difficulty maintaining an erection, not getting one, but keeping it. There's a huge difference between not being able to get an erection and not being able to maintain one. In the first case, the blockage is total. The blood simply doesn't enter. In the second case, the blockage is partial. The blood enters, but it leaks out. It escapes through vessels that can't close completely, that can't maintain the necessary pressure because the vessel walls are compromised, because the muscles that should keep the vessels dilated are weak, because the entire system is operating below capacity. And do you know what's cruel about this fifth sign? It creates enormous confusion in a man's mind. Because when you can get the erection, you think you're fine, you think the problem is gone. But then, in the middle of intimacy, it weakens, and the shame, the desperation, the feeling of failure hits. Many men start avoiding intimacy, making excuses, pulling away from relationships so they don't have to face that situation again. But the problem is not psychological. The problem is vascular. The veins that should stay dilated to keep blood trapped in the erectile tissues can't sustain the pressure. This is a clear sign of circulatory compromise, not weakness of character, not lack of attraction, not a relationship issue. It's physical, it's biology, it's circulation. I had a patient, I'll call him Antonio, 71 years old, married for almost 45 years. He came into the office with a level of shame that was painful to see. He had gone 6 months without approaching his wife. He said he was tired, that he slept badly, that he had no energy. But the real truth was that he was afraid of failing again, afraid of starting and not being able to finish. He was carrying that burden alone, telling no one, thinking it was weakness, thinking it was the end. When we investigated, we found all 5 signs I've shown you today. Virtually absent morning erections for over a year, long delay to achieve full erection, frequently cold extremities, disproportionate fatigue, and difficulty maintaining an erection. A complete picture of vascular compromise that had installed itself silently over many years, and that he could have identified much earlier if he had known what to look for. Now you know. Now you have the information he didn't have when he needed it. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Because here's the part that matters. Recognizing the signs is only half the journey. The other half is understanding what causes this clogging and what you can do to reverse it. The central cause is always the same: chronic inflammation, fat buildup on vessel walls, nitric oxide deficiency, and loss of arterial elasticity. And these 4 factors have one thing in common: they respond to lifestyle. They respond to what you eat, to your level of physical activity, to the quality of your sleep, and to your daily choices. This is not a death sentence, it's a window of opportunity. Because if the clogging was caused by decades of habits that harmed circulation, it also means that habits that improve circulation can reverse the process, partially or completely, depending on the stage. And this is exactly where the most important set of changes for men over 60 with this condition comes in. The first step is to increase nitric oxide in the body. Nitric oxide is the molecule that relaxes blood vessels, dilates them, and allows blood to flow at full pressure. Without enough nitric oxide, arteries become rigid, contracted, and narrow, and blood can't pass properly. There are foods that significantly boost nitric oxide production. Beets, dark leafy greens, and pomegranate. These foods contain compounds that your body converts into nitric oxide. When levels rise, arteries relax, flow increases, and circulation improves. The second step is to reduce chronic inflammation, because inflammation damages vessel walls, creates the environment where fat accumulates, and hardens arteries over the years. Chronic inflammation is fueled by very common modern habits: excess sugar, excess saturated fat, sedentary lifestyle, poor sleep, and unmanaged stress. Each of these factors adds more fuel to the inflammatory fire. When you remove or reduce them, inflammation drops, arteries begin to recover, and blood flow starts to improve. And here's something I've learned over years of treating men in this situation. The change doesn't have to be radical to be real. I'm not asking you to become an athlete. I'm not asking you to never eat red meat again. I'm not asking you to completely revolutionize your life overnight, because radical changes don't last. What lasts are consistent, small adjustments maintained over time. Just 30 minutes of walking per day already makes a measurable difference in circulation. Walking forces the blood vessels to expand repeatedly, trains arterial elasticity, makes the heart pump more efficiently, and this daily stimulus gradually recalibrates the entire circulatory system. Hydration is another underestimated factor. Blood is mostly water. When you live dehydrated, blood becomes thicker, more viscous, and harder to circulate, especially in the smaller vessels like those in the penis. Many men over 60 simply don't drink enough water and don't realize it. Starting the day with 2 glasses of water before coffee is a small change with real impact. Sleep is where the body does most of its vascular maintenance. During deep sleep, the body produces hormones that regulate inflammation, strengthen vessel walls, and balance testosterone. Men who sleep poorly, who have untreated sleep apnea, or who wake up multiple times during the night are sabotaging this repair process. If you suspect you sleep badly, snore excessively, or wake up without energy even after enough hours of sleep, this deserves medical investigation. Sleep apnea, in particular, has a devastating impact on circulation and testosterone that few men know about. And the most important cut, the one that impacts the circulatory picture fastest, is excess alcohol, processed meats, and fried foods. These 3 are the biggest enemies of the arteries. They cause inflammation, deposit fat on vessel walls, and destroy the elasticity arteries need to function. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. 5 days of healthy habits followed by a weekend that undoes everything produces no results. Consistency is what changes the picture. Now, maybe you're wondering, but doctor, I've been like this for a long time. The signs are already advanced. Is it still possible to reverse it? The honest answer is, it depends. It depends on the level of vascular compromise. It depends on other conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, or heart problems. It depends on how consistently you apply the changes. But I can tell you one thing with complete conviction, based on years in practice and hundreds of patients. The human body has an astonishing capacity for recovery, especially when you stop attacking it with harmful habits and start giving it what it needs. I had a 74-year-old patient, controlled hypertension, mild diabetes, who presented all 5 signs I described today. He arrived convinced that the only solution was medication and that there was no turning back through natural means. But he agreed to try a set of adjustments for 60 days before deciding on medication. In 40 days, morning erections returned partially. In 50 days, the fatigue decreased noticeably. In 60 days, when he returned, his tests showed reduced inflammatory markers and improved blood pressure. And he had an expression I'll never forget: real hope based on concrete results. It wasn't magic, it was the body responding to what it had needed for years. And the most important thing in this whole story isn't his result, it's what that result means for you. If a 74-year-old man with other health conditions could reverse this picture in just 2 months of consistent changes, what's your excuse for not starting today? Because here's the truth nobody likes to hear, but that I have a duty to say. Time doesn't stop while you decide. Every week that passes without change is one more week of damage accumulating on your vessel walls. Every month of sedentary lifestyle is one more month of chronic inflammation, compromising your arterial elasticity. Every year of inflammatory eating is one more year of progression of a blockage that could be reversing. The 5 signs I showed you today don't disappear on their own. They don't fix themselves with time. They get worse because circulation doesn't improve without intervention. Arteries don't unclog themselves. Nitric oxide doesn't return to ideal levels without stimulus. And when you continue ignoring these signals, when you continue normalizing what isn't normal, the condition advances. And then it really does become harder to reverse. But when you act early, when you read the signals from your own body and decide you're not going to accept this as a final sentence, you have time on your side, biology on your side, and science on your side. So let me ask you a direct question. Did you recognize any of the 5 signs I described today? Morning erections becoming rarer, longer time to achieve a full erection, frequently cold hands and feet, fatigue disproportionate to effort, difficulty maintaining an erection during intimacy. If you recognize yourself in at least 2 of these signs, it's time to take this seriously. Not tomorrow, not when you have more time. Today. Because you made it this far. You watched the entire video. You listened to every single one of these signs with attention. That already means something. It means you're taking your health seriously. It means you're not willing to accept that's just how it is. And that alone is more than most men in your situation do. And before I finish, I need to tell you something that goes beyond the veins in the penis and beyond erection. The circulatory system is an integrated system. What compromises circulation in the penis compromises circulation throughout the body. The same plaques that block the smaller veins of the penis are the ones that accumulate in the coronary arteries, that harden the cerebral arteries, that compromise kidney circulation. So, when you take care of circulation to recover sexual function, you are automatically protecting your heart, your brain, and your kidneys. You are literally investing in extra years of health and quality of life. That's why I say erectile dysfunction is not the problem, it's the warning. And the men who learn to listen to this warning, who act on it, who take the alert seriously, are the same ones who reach 75 or 80 with vitality, energy, and quality of life that most people associate with decades younger. You have this chance right now. Now that you know the signs, now that you understand the process, now that you have information that most men in your situation don't have. What you do with this information is your choice. But I hope you choose to act because you deserve to live with health, vitality, and your sexual function, preserved regardless of your age. If this video made sense to you, if you recognized any of these signs, if you want to keep receiving content like this, Subscribe to the channel now. Here, I bring what almost no health professional explains with this clarity to men over 60. Science-based content based on real clinical practice, based on real results. And tell me in the comments, did you recognize any of these 5 signs? How many? Talk to me because you're not alone in this. Knowing that you're here, that you're seeking information, that you're not passively accepting what's happening to your body, that already changes everything. The rest is just a consequence.